It is a bit breezy this morning. Kind of chilly too. Let's get inside where we don't have so much wind noise. Well, we are inside. Donations only. If you want to donate, you can. Otherwise, it's free to walk in here. It says it's 50,000 square foot with about 115 trucks. So here we go. Let's go walk around and see what they got. You remember the song back in the 60s, Red Sylvine, the Phantom 309? Well, this isn't the actual truck, of course, but this is the type of truck that he was driving in that song. That song is based on a true accident that actually happened up in the Northeast. I can't remember, New Hampshire or Massachusetts or somewhere. And read this plaque right here and you'll learn all about that. But anyway, this is the Phantom 309 truck. This is the kind of truck that the Phantom 309 was. Now it would have been a bigger truck with a sleeper, I'm sure. Or no, it was pulling a gas tank, so maybe not. But anyway, read up on this and you'll know what the Phantom. This is a oil rig truck, is what this was, with a big winch on the back. But this kind of Mack right here, this is the type of truck it would have been. This truck here would be a white. This is one of the early sleeper trucks. That's what they had in my, when they needed to stay out overnight, and instead of sleeping in a hammock strung underneath the trailer or something, that's what they would sleep in right there. That was one of the first early sleeper trucks right here. And it said on the paper, on the board there, it said that this is one of the last trucks that White made that was a wooden framework before they went all steel. Looks comfy, don't it? I was talking to the guy, one of the guys that works here at the museum, and he said there are certain trucks like this one right here. I said, when are they going to restore this? And he says they won't, because it's so rare. There's only 6 of them known in existence, and they weren't very many to start with. And it's worth more, or as a museum piece, original like this, than it is if you was to tear it all down, put new wood and all that. It's still a fairly completed piece. So, you know, the ones they restore are ones that all the wood is rotted out and there's a lot of it gone, and they'll replace things like that. But this right here, there's so much of it left, they said they'll just leave it the way it is, because that's more historical right the way it is. So it's quite a machine though. It's quite a machine. How'd you like to drive one of these things? And here you go for you folks that like the chick flicks. This exact truck was in the movie Fried Green Tomatoes. I've never seen the movie, so I don't know, but apparently this exact truck was in that movie. And anybody wondering what this is, what are these big blocks of metal? This is a scale truck. The Department of Weight and Measures, this is the kind of truck they still use today. I mean, a modern version of this. They go around to the scale houses on every scale, the state scales, and also the private scales, like at truck stops and stuff, and they calibrate them. So this is one of the early versions of that, of a scale truck. I have no idea. I've never heard of this. An FWD, have never heard of this. But there's a lot of these trucks in here I've never heard of, especially the really old ones like this. There were so many truck manufacturers back in the day. It was kind of, I have a feeling before too much longer there's going to be a lot of this in the electric car manufacturers. There's going to be a whole bunch that try to do the electric cars and electric trucks and things like that, and they'll come out with a prototype or a few models, but they'll fold up. One of the companies will take off and become big. Well, back in the turn of the century, or late, the 20s and whatnot, there was a whole bunch of these manufacturers that made trucks, and the ones we know of today, Peterbilt, Kenworth, Mack, Freightliner, they're the ones that stood the test of time. So unique, very, very unique. Now this is the one I like right over here. I think this is pretty. This old truck here. You ever heard of Diamond Rio, the music group? Well, Diamond T and Rio were two truck manufacturers, and Diamond T and Rio, they merged together and came up with a company called Diamond Rio. And I think there's another one, or there's a Diamond Rio truck in here in this museum too. I can't remember where it's at, but anyway, that's where that group got its name, was Diamond Rio. Early version of a Freightliner. I was sitting there thinking what the oldest truck that I ever drove, and I'm thinking it was a 78 Freightliner. I think was the oldest truck I ever drove. So it was much newer than this one, of course. Oh, right here, the radiator here. A lot of people don't know this. The radiators, nowadays you have a radiator that just opens and closes a valve inside for the water, but in the old days they open and close shutters, and the air would, when it's open like that, air could flow through the radiator and cool the truck off. And with it closed, the radiator would stay warm, and so it would regulate its temperature by opening and closing shutters. There's several of those trucks in here. That one there is one that really stood out because of the mechanisms on the outside there where you can see it. This here's a early version of a fifth wheel and a fifth wheel pin. Okay, trailer pin and fifth wheel, and they would somehow lock it in there. This is one you had to line up and drop the pin right down in the hole, and then it would latch. This is a very, very old version of that, but nowadays they slide in with a groove. Here's another Diamond T coming up too. This is a later version. That's when trucks started getting big. Now, I've seen these trucks on the road. This kind of truck right here, I've seen on the road, several of them over the years. Don't see them there anymore, but 30 years ago, you can still see these out there. They're pretty rare now. I can see myself driving that. That is cool. Double stick, twin stick. I think the sign said 5 1/4, I think. There's the shutters. There's those shutters again, just like the other one, the open and close. This truck here has shutters on it. It opens and closes, lets the air flow through the radiator, and that's what regulates the temperature. Oh, sterling whites. Sterling White's actually came out with the name, the trucking company, or the manufacturer pretty much went under. And back in the 2009, back in the 90s, I think, back in the early mid-90s or something, Sterling, I think Ford bought the Sterling name. And they brought out a few more modern trucks. They didn't last very long. They were kind of ugly and they didn't sell very well. There's an old Bulldog. Bulldog. Mack's called Bulldogs. Why do they call them Bulldogs? Because of the hood ornament. Rough. I think I've seen trucks like this before, fire trucks, you know, hook and ladder trucks and stuff like that. I've seen that kind of a cab on a hook and ladder type truck. What's that big thing on the front? Well, this truck would sit still and shucking corn, okay? And that keeps the radiator from clogging up with silt and stuff flying around in the air. But this was a thresher, okay? And people don't know, you know, when you see a combine out in the field combining wheat or milo or corn or whatever, they call it a combine because it's a combination harvester and thresher. Well, this is just the thresher part. You'd harvest with some other machine and come over, and then you'd throw the corn stalks in here. They'd go up that ramp, inside be shulled, and all the corn would come out on the other conveyor. There's an early version of the latches from that we still use today. That's just an early version of them. Split rim wheels. There's some bud wheels, aluminum bud wheels. This here is a pretty rare truck. They're bullnose Kenworths, 2 of them. And the guy was pretty proud of them. The guy that I talked to, he was pretty proud of these. He said they're his favorite trucks in the whole museum. These are 58 and a 54 bullnose. And they're a cab over style Kenworth. Something I didn't know about these, I've seen them before, but I didn't know anything about them really. They're pretty rare. I've seen them going down a highway before, but don't know much about them. But cab overs, the hood will tilt. I mean, not the hood. How do you get to the engine? The engine's underneath the cab, so you have to tilt the cab completely up. This one doesn't tilt. These are the early versions of cab overs. You had to take that dog box off right there to get to the engine. That's the only way you could work on the engine, through that dog box. So if you ever had to pull the engine, I think you have to take the cab completely off the truck to pull the engine out. So here's that's a 54. And this is a 58. He said that 58, this particular one here, was the second to last one ever built. And so that's what he told me anyway. So yeah, we might read this here. It might tell you something different. That's what he told me. That thing on the hood right there on the passenger window, that's the air cleaner. That's what sucks the air in to get to the engine. Pretty cool. Pretty cool. An old GMC, my grandpa had one of these, I think. Had something similar to it anyway. Farm truck. Had a flatbed with stakes on the side. Used it to haul his grain. Just for harvest into the co-op. I don't think his was diesel though. I think his was a gasoline. CFI, they're a company out of Joplin, Missouri. They got bought out years ago by Conway, but they had a really large terminal down there in Joplin, Missouri, and this is one of their trucks. The guy that's running the place, or one of the guy I talked to that works here, he said that some of these trucks are donated. They're still owned by, I would guess this one might be one. It's owned by the company, like CFI still owns this, but they donated it to the museum for viewing. This is a modern ISX engine. This is like, I've had one of these in my Kenworths. My last two Kenworths and a previous Peterbilt had the same motor here, ISX motor. I had an 03, an 06, 09, and a 15. And this here, if you read through here, this will explain gas versus diesel and what, how they operate, and what the bonuses or the pros and cons of each of them. And this here is an older engine. I don't know much about this one. It is a Hall Scott engine. Okay, there we go. I never heard of this one. This is totally new to me. I'm gonna have to read through this myself. And here's a General back, this blue truck back here. This is a General, a GMC General. And I've seen many of these going down the highway. This is not that old of a truck. I mean, it's old, but it's not majorly antique. Hello, General. But yeah, you see a lot of these. Actually, you still see these on the road, like farmers and stuff will still have these, running them, because farmers don't tend to put a lot of miles on these trucks, so they're still in use, But yeah, I've seen several of those going down the highway. When I first started driving, this was the kind of trucks that were on the road. GMC cab over. I'm seeing a few of them on the highway too. They weren't near as popular as the hoods, but there were some of them out there. Old corn binder, International corn binder. We get across this back row, and this will be it for this video. There's a whole lot of other trucks that were along the sidewalls. These are the ones that were in the center of the building. So I'm going to put more videos out, another video out after this one, and it'll be the long version. It won't be me talking or anything. It'll just be the raw, unedited video. After I walked in the door, and I'll go down every one of these trucks, and you can take your time and pause the video and read all the billboards and plaques, or all the information boards that are available. So and here's the favorite ones right here, these old Peterbilt. I almost bought a truck like this, not quite this old. I think it was a 69, the one I was looking at buying, probably about 15-20 years ago. And I was gonna build it or buy it and restore it, and yeah, I put a whole ton of money into it, but I didn't. This here's there's a story on this truck. I've seen it. It's right here. Oh, the race. This is where they race across country. Not high speed though. It's where they take the old antique vehicles and run it across country. But anyway, that's promoting the Catskills, which this truck stop, they also own the Catskills around the country. That's the private scales you see in the truck stops. But so they were promoting their company there. So anyway, oh, behind me right here, these are old radiators. These are old radiators, and just, I don't think they have the truck, but the radiators, because it's cast iron, it's still here. So they decorated them up, and this is kind of the old tombstones of radiators here. So with this, I'll go down the other side, and I'm going to take this and edit this up for you. And the next video will be this same museum, but every truck from one side all the way down the other side, and I'll stop at every placard and show you everything about it. Oh, and another thing is the signs. I'm going to show you signs here in just a second. Old auto car, I've seen several of those. Look at the headlights are built into the radiator. I thought that's neat. Jurassics, never heard of it. Hell, headlights. If you ever had a wreck and broke that, how would you replace it? Of course, it'd be pretty hard to break it. There's old Hank's Hilton right there, the old cab over. That was a famous truck. I've talked to that old boy, and I think that truck has been taken over to Europe before. So, but what I wanted to show you here was these signs. Every one of these signs are original. Nothing in this museum is recreation. Every one of these signs are original, you know. So, but I'm going to go down, see that whole wall of trucks, and on the other side I didn't go through. So anyway, that's it for this video. I'm going to let you go now, and pay attention to the next, or stay tuned for the next video. It'll be coming up in a couple days, right? So y'all take care. Ciao. Bye.